we had lived off grid previously, and many people had told us we should have done a podcast or a vlog about our off grid adventures building our homestead. And so I was like, well, if we want to travel, why don't we take people traveling with us?
Hello and welcome to Podcraft. It's Matthew with you here, and I'll address the elephant in the room straight up front. I've had the old man flu recently, and as you could no doubt hear, it's caused me to lose my voice. Great news for my wife, not so great for those of you trying to listen to this podcast. Fear not though, you only need to hear this feeble attempt at speaking for another 20 seconds or so, as I recorded the main part of this week's conversation a good few weeks ago. You're going to love this one. It's part coaching, part really cool case study. It's a chat with Cara and James of Kerouac's Cruising, soulful off-grid adventures and stories from the open road. So what better way to kick things off than to ask, where are you right now?
We are in the northern panhandle of Idaho in the U.S.
Yeah, so I mean, these sort of travels are a big part of the content that you create, isn't it? So tell us a wee bit about the podcast and how that relates to kind of how you're traveling about the country just now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're Kerouac's Cruising, and yeah, that's exactly what we do. We travel the country, adventuring with our dogs, really trying to find the most remote places we can find around the U.S. to camp with our dogs, so that not only they can have the most freedom possible, but we can have the most freedom possible. And in that process of the physical journey, we talk a lot about the internal journey of living kind of a more eccentric or off the beaten path life, and kinds of the ins and outs and the growths that go hand in hand with that.
Yeah, I listened to one of your episodes recently, and it was very like on location. I mean, as you would expect, and you were kind of, it was almost diary style. Like you were giving updates where you were going and talking through. I think you'd managed to get the van in a difficult situation where you needed to do a bit of reversing out. I don't know if it was like down a hill or something like that, but it very much put me there with you, which was great. It looks like the show has been going since May of 2024, if what I'm seeing here is
Yeah.
correct. How has that gone for you so far? Like, what have been the sort of? I mean, there's obviously a lot that you enjoy about it, given that you've kept going, but there'll obviously be some challenges too. So, starting with the positives, like what have been the big sort of benefits of running the show? Have you found?
It's definitely, I think, pulled us out of our comfort zones in a lot of ways. Both of us, I feel like, have had a difficult time historically really expressing ourselves. And so having a platform where we can talk about some of the struggles that we're going through, the wins that we're achieving, feels really great. I think it's been cathartic for both of us. And then again, getting me out of my comfort zones as far as technology, learning how to do the editing. I mean, Al2 has been amazing for that. It really, as far as the training wheels to help me learn how to do that. And then, that bridge the gap, because again, we're a travel podcast. So it just made sense for us to switch into video. So being able to then work with the video software and learn how to do it on that side as well. So it's, and building websites and all of that has been great to learn, but definitely very challenging.
A lot of time consuming.
Yeah, very time consuming. One of the biggest challenges is actually traveling and having access to things like these calls, because we do interviews as well, and having internet to do the editing. I definitely find I have a Chromebook, so I have to use a browser-based program, and I was so grateful to find this program, because it really makes it so that I can edit, but uploading big files like videos when you're on the go and then downloading and uploading, it takes so much time. It's that's been a big hassle. And then we feel like our growth has been steadily going up, but I guess, you see some people who it's like they've got a bazillion subscribers in their first couple of months, and we're still just trickling along. I think on YouTube we have 50, but then our regular listeners, for what Altu tracks, I think is 125 a month is on average what we're seeing.
And that's frustrating, but then I look at it, we are people that we just don't know a lot of people. So when I'm like, if we have 20 people following, that's about as many people as we know.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, don't
it is steady growth.
yeah, I mean, you're kind of having a laugh about like seeing other shows with huge numbers, and to be honest, like, well, a you don't necessarily know other folks' numbers, and b, you know, I think people could maybe judge a podcast success based on maybe social metrics, so followers on various social platforms, and they're really not. They don't really what's the word I'm looking for, transfer from one platform to the other,
That is
certainly
one of
not
the
from.
things I found. At the beginning, I was paying for ads on social media, and I found that it wasn't affecting how many people were listening. So
Mhm.
I stopped doing that. It doesn't transfer.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting you talk about video because, like, I mean, I'm a massive fan of podcasts and audio and stuff like that, but I almost wonder, like, well, what you guys are doing, would a YouTube channel not be the better option for you? I mean, it does look like you're doing a wee bit on YouTube as well. So how does that sort of look, that relationship between the audio and the video stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So, YouTube will do the RSS feed. So every audio version of our podcast just automatically, when I hit publish on Altu, it automatically goes to YouTube. But then we also post the physical video, so we have both options. So it's very. I think I got it from the Podcraft um, newsletter that you guys send out, and that YouTube, most people don't actually watch the videos on YouTube, they just listen on
Mm,
YouTube, which is great because we put both. But yeah, we definitely put the video version of every episode on YouTube.
mhm. And how does that look? No pun intended. Like, you know, are you kind of sitting, chatting, you know, as you are now, or are you actually showing things like away from just your faces? Are you showing the kind of locations that you're at, or is it just a mixture?
It's a little bit of both. So, when we are on the move, when we're consistently, like, sometimes we'll just stay overnight on our way to a destination and we found an amazing campsite. We'll talk about the amazing campsite. We'll talk about our journeys for the day. If we had any car troubles or traffic issues or anything like that while we're showing off the campsite. But it's pretty much just us talking. Recently, we just went to Yosemite. So we kind of bring people on that journey with us. So, like, we drove through a snowstorm in August and showing the waterfalls and things like that. So, we'll bring them with us for like the really exciting things. If we do have car trouble and we have the awareness in the moment.
The resource, we try to show people the actual process of fixing it,
Yeah,
and, sometimes we in the moment when you break down,
you're stressed out. So, it's hard to remember to
it's
post
hard
it.
to remember to record, so we have had trouble and we haven't recorded, but we are getting better at that. And then recently in the trip to Yosemite, we're in the camper, and this is our first time with a camper. We used to tent camp, and I had a drill that
Mhm.
was in the pass-through of my camper, and through the bumpy roads, I opened the pass-through, and the drill with the Phillips bit fell through my foot. And I ended up recording that because for whatever reason, we do get a lot of hits when we have something that goes wrong.
Yeah.
So people will tend to watch more of that. So we've been trying to focus on giving people the exciting things like Yosemite waterfalls and stuff like that, but then also giving them the not so pretty views of, what happens when a drill goes through your foot.
In the middle of the woods.
Could have edited the Wilhelm scream into that, I suppose. Uh, But, when, it was a few weeks ago that I actually listened because we were actually scheduled to speak sooner, and I did notice, like, as much as yous did a great job, you know, I was just listening, and, you did a really good job, like, setting the scene in that, but there was a couple of wee times where you'd almost made references to, like, I'm putting your words in your mouth here, it wasn't verbatim, but, like, as you could see over here, maybe stuff like that that suggested, you know, I was hearing the audio of a video. It wasn't over the top, but I guess that's a wee challenge you might find now and then. It's just like, when you're doing something that seems in the moment very visual, remembering that a lot of people are going to actually just be listening to it and kind of making the audio listener not feel like they're only getting, half of the experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, get more descriptive, that makes
Oh,
sense.
so because you're listening instead of
Yeah.
watching the video,
Mm.
I get that.
Yeah,
I
he's
get it.
feels like he's missing out.
Yeah, you're missing out. That makes total sense. We have to work on that.
Yeah, like it wasn't over the top. It's just I am aware of this with some podcasts now. That maybe they do screencasts whilst they're recording, and they're showing maybe software, but that they're almost fully into just being a video now, and the audio is just like almost a sideshow. So you do hear a lot of that. Again, you guys definitely weren't at that stage. You've been over the top with it, but I guess it is just something to kind of keep in mind,
Yeah, no, I
that you're
appreciate
catering
that.
to everyone. um, what have been any of the other sort of challenges or frustrations at this sort of stage?
I think those are the 2 that were really, I mean, there was, I think we both have had, like, I don't wanna call it imposter syndrome, but, like, questioning whether or not we should keep going, just because we felt like the growth was
Because the growth
slower.
was so minimal in the first year, but, so we were like, "Should we keep doing the podcast?" We're gonna keep traveling no matter what because we're really enjoying that part of it. But it's like, do we wanna keep the going with the podcast if we're not really gonna get listeners? But then, I think that when I read about it and I researched it, everything I read said you really gotta keep producing episodes, and it really takes 3 years before you really start getting noticed. I don't know if you can give us some insight on that, but that's kinda what I read. It's not a get, followers really quick. It's really steady growth, and then you're gonna get those listeners forever.
Yeah, 100%. Like it is, there's no getting around it. It's quite a slow, steady process. But at the same time, there are still definitely things that we can do to, make sure it's more than just like the most and the least paradoxically that we could do is just to keep publishing great content every single week, and naturally a core people will find that and they'll tell people and that will grow, but there are definitely more things that we could do above that, to push the growth. So I'd be interested to start out because I mean this is clearly your main issue is growth, and it's the main issue for every podcast, to be quite honest with you. So I'd be interested to know a couple of things that you've maybe tried so far. And I know you mentioned, Cara, you mentioned some paid ads, but anything else that you've tried at this stage? I'd just like to kind of dig into that.
And I know this is silly, but when we're at a spot, if we meet somebody, we've been trying to give out our business card and, kind of boots on the ground. And then one of the things we just started doing, we ordered some of our books and we're giving out some of our books with the card in it, trying to get people to listen and pick us up that way organically, just meeting them and then
Yeah,
talking to
old
them.
fashioned.
Old fashioned. And, we met a great guy and, a few people. So and I know that's only, 5 people or 10 people, but we're hoping, they
Like you
tell
said, they tell more
yeah,
people.
they tell 3 to 5 people and then we get it. Kara does the social media part, and I know that she was putting shorts or whatever they
Yeah.
call it. And the problem with the shorts, in my opinion, is like we have friends that will watch the shorts, but they don't watch the whole
Yeah, they
episode.
think they got the meat and the potatoes out of
And,
that.
they're like, "Oh, we watched your episode." I was like, no," because it said, we had a friend just tell us the other day, he watched an episode that had just happened, but it didn't show that he watched it on our end. And then after more discovering, he only watched the short. So, it really didn't get us any views. He just watched the short episode.
Yeah, no, there's a good couple of things to unpack here. Firstly, on the shorts, there was a really good article, and I wish I had it in front of me so I could cite it, but I'll link to it in the show notes. And it was someone was making the case that all this hype around shorts it's actually hampering a lot of people's growth because, especially, I think they were talking about people who stream live and stuff like that, and their audience is starting to either assume or realize that, well, I could, if there's anything that's really good in this episode, it will become a short. If there's any real value or takeaway, it'll become a short, and I'll just go and watch that instead. And the theory, whether it's misled or not, is I'm just cutting out then all the filler. Like I could get the meat and leave the rest. So there's that angle of shorts that I think people might need to be kind of wary of. And also, you're talking about in person, and a lot of us, including myself, we can dismiss in-person stuff because it seems small scale. But if you think about it, like a conversation with a person in real life where you physically hand them a card or have a conversation about your show, that is arguably worth hundreds or thousands of views on a social platform. It's a lot deeper. And just because that is one person, that person then speaks to another person who speaks to someone. So it can still grow. It's just, it seems less directly scalable. Are you like the kind of places that you'll find yourselves? Because again, I know nothing about this life. So if you're stopping off in a place, getting supplies, going for something to eat or drink or that, are folks in a similar boat or a similar van tend to be like on the same routes and meeting them in the same sort of places?
I don't think we've ever recrossed paths with anybody. We have almost had an opportunity to re-meet up with somebody. And that's what's kind of cool, right? Because they're living the life and they're traveling all over the country as well. So they're going to come across other people who are living the life and traveling the country as well. So it really does have the opportunity to grow, and people start to feel like they met a famous person. And it kind of helps that our last name we're related to a famous author. So that drives up a lot of curiosity. As soon as people know the name, they start to ask a lot of questions, and I think it really gets people excited. They feel like they met a famous person, I guess is what I mean.
Mhm. And we definitely, I know the few people that we have met, we know them people are listening,
Mhm.
and we know that they were excited. Like 6 months ago, we were camping in a spot, and some people had came and they wanted our camp spot that they came every year, and they were super excited to be able to listen to our podcast. So you do meet those people, and in my opinion, I think that's them little conversations are gonna build us in the long run. I know it's hard because we look at it every day and it's like, man, nobody's listening. But then we meet these people and we're like, oh, I guess we do have some followers that really like to listen to our stuff and if you're going to the Grand Canyon, for instance, we have a lot of good episodes on what to do in and around the Grand Canyon and where to camp. So I do think people are going to tune into those.
Hey there, quick little sidebar to talk about a tool that I've been looking a lot at recently, and it's the sponsor for this episode, but because I believe it's actually a really good one for podcasters, it's called Score App. So Score App, and it's a quiz tool. So you can offer up a quiz to your listeners. They take the quiz and you can give them some personal feedback based on that quiz. The whole goal is that it's around growing your podcast's email list or directing people towards maybe products or services you have. So it's really good for growing that email list, getting more subscribers, or directing people straight to your services. The thing is, people often use, traditional lead magnets like PDFs, cheat sheets, that kind of thing. They're totally fine, but there's a lot of them around. It's kind of hard to get people excited about another free download these days. So I'm just finding these quizzes way more engaging, actually. People kind of want to take them. They're almost like going back to that old school Facebook thing where you would get a quiz like, which Harry Potter character are you? Or something like that. Except Score App lets you build a quiz like that really easily, less than half an hour, which is much more focused on your listeners. So for example, you might get a podcast for freelancers, which has a quiz like, what's your freelance business score, and you intrigue people in, and then you can give them some feedback based on the answers that they give you. Or maybe it's something like, are you ready to raise your rates? And you can give them advice on raising their rates or what average rates are. So the listeners take the quiz, they get a personalized result, and you get their email and you learn a bit about their needs. And so either you can just put them straight on your list and start emailing them and help them become more loyal listeners of your show, or you can even send them some sales material after that. So if you want to check this out, it's kind of a more fun way to better engage your listeners. It's a really smart way to build that email list, whether it's for just pure engagement and loyalty or whether it's for sales. Go over to Score App. So that's SCOREAPP, that's scoreapp.com, and there you can build your first quiz for free and see how it works, see if it might work for you.
I would like to ask a wee bit about your target audience, but Jack Kerouac, yeah?
Yep.
Jack Kerouac.
Yeah. So who's the relation then?
I'm related to Jack Kerouac, and I was born and raised in Lowell, Massachusetts, and he is my third cousin.
Tremendous. Good claim to fame, that. So yeah, it is a famous name, isn't it? So are you finding that a lot, that people maybe ask you any relation?
Yeah, especially in this lifestyle.
A
Yeah.
lot of people ask, and they've asked really my whole life, all through school.
And what's
Yeah.
funny is Jack Kerouac was kind of villainized in James's family. He was kind of ostracized. He lived an outrageous life. And so James had never really read any of his books. I hadn't either. And so unknowingly, we kind of jumped on the legacy, not even realizing that's what we were doing. And we just got an influx of questions about Jack Kerouac once we started doing the life. And so we were like, all right, we got to start reading his books. And we were surprised and amazed and excited to realize that we're carrying it on.
And it was amazing. So I read a few books, but one of the books that resonated with me is Dharma Bums. And I tell people I'm living the Dharma Bum life. And it's just really living outside the society norms. And that is what we're doing. And we're trying to, hopefully our audience is people that understand you don't need to work that,
Or want to understand.
you don't need to work that corporate job and climb the corporate ladder and have this insane amount of money, or the insane amount of things that people collect that you really just don't need.
Yeah. So I guess our target audience, to circle back around Matthew's question, we are really aiming to, and the travels themselves are just kind of like the entertainment, but the meat and potatoes of it is people who are trying to get out, like they feel stuck. They want to do something different. They have a dream maybe that they want to achieve, but they don't know how to achieve it, and they think it's silly, or the world around them thinks it's silly, just like us moving off grid, or us traveling for a living. Those sort of things. You want to open the bake shop, but you're too afraid to quit your 9 to 5 because it pays the bills. You're just nervous, or to start the podcast, whatever it is for you. You're afraid to make that jump. So we really talk a lot about the inner work of getting out there and doing what you're really meant to do, what's gnawing at you on the inside.
What
Get out there and
drives
do.
you.
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody. And we think our niche is showing people that you can grow and learn to get out of that society norm.
Yeah, I think you're thinking about that in a good way, because it'd be easy to assume that, based on what you're doing, your target audience would be just simply people who are doing the same thing, people who are traveling and living off grid. But it definitely doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe it is people who aspire to do that, and seeing you doing it, they see that it's possible. Maybe it's even, people who have no interest in doing it but love the thought of it, or just love to hear about it, and maybe feel that they could experience at least a little bit of that just through yourselves without them doing it themselves. So there's all sorts of but I do like that angle of, you've got that wider angle of just it's not widely accepted that you can go and do what you guys are doing. it's against kind of conventions of, you know, you just have your house and stuff like that. So yeah, it's got that angle of you know, trying something different, getting outside your comfort zone. And tell me a wee bit about, like, because you're talking about interviews in the podcast. What might we hear on a typical interview, if there is such a thing on the show?
So I guess we don't really, I want to say we don't get picky about who we interview, but we are, that sounds negative in the wrong way. I guess we are interviewing people who are experiencing their own inner journey of growth of some sort, or they're facilitating other people's journey in growth. So again, we talk a lot about the external journey of where we're traveling to and what we're doing and the headaches and the heartaches that go along with that. But
And the
we're also,
fun and the beauty of it.
yes, of course. And also the inner journey of again developing the confidence and the wherewithal to live a life outside of the norm. And so we talk to a lot of people who are helping to facilitate those changes, or they themselves are also going through their own life journey, and so they're talking about it from their own perspective.
You won't have heard it yet because I think it'll be published tomorrow, like as we're recording. But we had a nice chap called Ben on recently on Podcraft, doing a similar episode to what we're doing now. And one of the things that kind of came up, we were talking about through lines between Ben's episodes, like what connected the conversations from one episode to the next. And we got quite into talking about avatars, you know, who is the avatar for this podcast. And it is widely repeated advice in podcasting, like create your avatar. But I think for some shows, particularly shows like Ben's and like yourselves, it could be quite a useful exercise. I'm curious if it's something you've ever kind of looked into before.
It's kind of somebody who is kind of stuck in a rut, stuck in their life, and they just don't know. They're sick of running the same game. You know, they're sick of, they wake up every morning, they go to work, they come home, they make dinner, they go to bed or watch their TV shows, go to bed. Like they just run the same life over and over and over again every day, day in and day out, and they're just sick of it. And they can't figure out how to get out of it. And so this, I mean, I guess we hope to motivate people, whatever it is that's in the back of your mind that you keep dreaming about when you daydream, or that just keeps pulling at you. You keep seeing these signs or synchronicities that keep telling you to make the next step into that direction, but you're ignoring them because it's scary. Like we're hoping that that's the person that hears our podcast and that we can light that fire and let them know that, you know, it's like that 4 minute mile number, you know, that you can do it too. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be traveling, but whatever it is that's crazy and weird and that you're terrified of doing, you can do that too.
Getting people out of their limiting beliefs.
Yes.
So for them to believe that they can do whatever they set their mind to. Like she said, the 4 minute mile. As soon as somebody conquered it, now everybody can conquer it. It's that same idea. Because, you know, we just feel that a lot, and us included, have a lot of limiting beliefs, and we're trying to grow from them limiting beliefs, believing that we can do a podcast or travel and make income when we need to make income, and believing in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is kind of where we're seeing a big challenge with your growth is that, you know, you've identified a person, you know, the maybe limited beliefs and or limiting beliefs, sorry. Uh, but that is much harder to target than, for example, if I ran a podcast teaching people how to speak Spanish, you know, I just
Hmm.
have to find the people that want to speak Spanish. But it's much harder when you get into that kind of mindset stuff. It's much harder to put a specific label on that. It's much harder to search for, you know, content, or even make someone aware that they're in need of your content. Does that kind of make sense? Like
Yeah.
just the kind of targeting and the reach of it all. So I mean that is a kind of starting point. It's just, you know, you've no doubt got the content there. It's how do you actually reach the people that need to hear from you, that you want to reach? How do you get in front of them? And again, you know, the Grown Up podcast is a whole series of its own. But like one of the things that jumps to mind for me is, I mean, based on what yous are doing and your experiences in the various locations, I guess like there'd be a lot of podcasts out there with adjacent audiences that would love to have you on the show and interview you. Like as I know you're literally doing one now, but as podcast interviews, something you've really done from the interviewee's seat rather than the interviewer.
I think we've been on 3.
Other people's
Oh,
podcasts.
yeah, we have actually another one, later this week. So we've done a
Mhm.
few.
And how has that come about? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
It's been organically through our sphere, that, we've been connected or, they know somebody that we know, and so they've reached out to us.
Were you able to sort of track any reception or engagement? Did you see any kind of results from that at all?
I don't think have you noticed? I don't think we had a big uptick from any of our interviews. The one that we are about to do is kind of in that more self growth wheelhouse. So that I could see maybe getting some into that. It's yeah, I we got the most of our uptick. Actually, we were published in an anthology, and we got most of our uptick from that anthology coming out. And I think that's been the biggest. It seems like after that was the
And
biggest
then
notable.
and I think interviewing all the
Yeah,
authors in the book and them putting it on their social media and their platform has increased us
yeah, I agree with that.
significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, collaboration is it's a massive part of podcast growth. If we look at like we've got our growth framework for growing a podcast, the scale framework. So it's syndication, communities and collaboration is the C, A is the advertised and paid promotion, L is the live and in person, and E is the email and engagement. So staying with it, I mean, you've got the S on point. You're publishing to Apple, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere else. The communities and collaboration, that is a great start. Not even for a new podcast, but to kickstart the growth of a show, working with any other content channels that you can for kind of cross promotion, swapping episodes, co-hosting episodes together. There's loads of opportunities in there. Again, it kind of depends on whether or not you've identified a few similar shows, whether they're podcasts or YouTube channels or whatever. Certainly, I would have a wee look on the Raphonic audience graph. I don't know. Have you ever heard me mention that on the podcast before?
It's not. No.
Yeah. So, Raphonic.com is, I'm just going on it now, and it's like a big 3D graph, and you type in your podcast. So, do that now. It'll be half an hour because I type with one finger. Uh, it basically shows you a lot of podcasts that would be good for cross promotion, and you
Got
could
it.
reach out to
No.
them. So, I would give that a wee look. I'll put it in the show notes too for the listener, but pick 2 or 3 podcasts that come up on there that are very close to your own, and if you're not aware of them, I guess that's better, because there'll maybe be 2 audiences there that would love one another's shows, and there are various ways you could look to do something together, whether it's just a co-hosted chat that goes out on both feeds, or interviewing each other, or all sorts of opportunities there. I think it's always good practice for a podcast, an indie podcast, to have 2 or 3 other podcasts adjacent to them that they kind of, they work off of each other sometimes, and create stuff together and kind of build the house together. So, yeah, I mean, collaboration's a big part of that, and community too. Is that something you've ever explored, like creating a community? Have you created a community anywhere, like online or that?
So what we have done, and it started out with us realizing we probably need to read some Jack Kerouac. We started a book club in our podcast community, and we have had minimal engagement, I would say, in that. Unfortunately, we meet every Sunday to discuss, X amount of chapters in the most recent book, and every I mean, we've had a few people join us a few times, but for the most part, 90% of the time, it's just me and James talking
Talking
about.
about the book.
It's just another podcast episode that only a few people get access to.
Yeah.
But I do think because we also talk about the book after in our
Yeah.
regular episode. So we think over time that could even grow as people see the books we're reading, hopefully buy a book or listen to a book, and then it gives us a different perspective of really what uh, we're chasing, really.
We've talked about the scale framework there. Like, I think there are a lot of opportunities for you in communities and collaboration. Like we've said, the advertising stuff, I would probably forget about that for now.
Mhm.
Any quote unquote advertising that you do could be through collaborations.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a lot more sense at this stage. The live and in person, I guess, it's reasonable to say that if you're meeting people, and that counts as live and in person. Like, you've been able to meet people before and pass on, whether it's cards or stuff. One of my own favourites is the old. I don't know if they do this much in America or various parts of America, but putting like beer mats or coasters down in cafes and bars and stuff. If you're ever like stopping somewhere for a
Oh.
a drink, so little
Putting the
cardboard.
coasters, giving, like, coasters at a bar that have our
Yeah,
information on it.
Oh, that's
yeah.
a great idea.
I've never seen that, and I think it's an epic idea to jump into.
Yeah, I used to do it. It was a good excuse to go to the pub. You take 5 or 6, and it was wee coasters with the podcast and, it had a wee bit of info on it and, any pub you went in, I stopped doing this, like, when COVID happened, and I never got back in the habit afterwards when they opened the pubs, but I always had, like, 5 or 6 of them in my pocket and anytime I sat down on a table, I just got my wee beer mat out and put my pint on it. And then when I left, I left the coaster behind. So you never know, like, if people maybe found the show that way. I like to think that they would have, rather than somebody coming in, clearing the table and just putting it straight back in the bin.
Yeah.
So, but aye, we things like that, like, they're low hanging fruits if you're able to get some coasters or that. And the email as well, emailing and engagement, the E of the scale framework. Like, I think email, it's working well for a lot of podcasters. Is it something that you are running yourself, an email list?
Yeah, so that's been a difficulty too. I just switched, unfortunately. I almost wish I would have stayed with it. I was running a Wix-based website and I switched to WordPress, and it's like learning a whole new language. And so it's been really difficult to get my website back up and going again. But even I think we've got like 14 email subscribers. Like, we don't have very much, and it's been difficult to build that up to get people. And we even offer a free, what do we call it, Pause in People ebook, where it's like a first aid manual for things to keep on hand when you're traveling for both yourself and your dogs, to to in the event of an emergency, a first aid kit essentially. So it and that's a free gift when you subscribe, and we just have not gotten very much. Now that's been down now for the last 2 months, just because I'm trying to rebuild our new website, but prior to that, we hadn't gotten very much activity.
Because when we did, just to give you an example, we did the dog first aid kit and we offer that for free. We got a lot of people that tuned in for our simple as, if your dog gets a cactus, a jumping cactus on it, using a comb to get the cactus out of the dog. A lot of people tuned into that.
Yeah.
Mm,
And that's why we thought the first aid kit was cool. And we just gave a lot of simple tricks that we have learned over the years, for first aid. And so we thought people would tune into it, but they tuned into that one video or
Yeah.
that one thing, but then it kind of fizzled out from there.
yeah, no, it's interesting. So yeah, I mean, and again, I know that there is that differentiation between, solid, practical, hands-on advice on the road that maybe doesn't apply to some of your listeners ultimately,
Yeah.
because they're just more interested in the kind of mindset growth stuff and,
Yep.
overcoming the mental hurdles or whatever it is, and belief-based stuff. So I know that it's not necessarily as straightforward as it's almost that two different kind of potential audiences there, and I think you guys are probably more leaning into the mindset stuff than as much as I've no doubt you're interested in the hardware and the gear and all that. It's maybe not your main motivation, if that's fair enough to say.
Yeah, I think it was at first. We were very focused on the travel side of it, and then as we've kind of grown into this space, it's definitely morphed and
We
transformed.
shifted.
Yeah, we've definitely shifted, and where the travel is just kind of the what we're doing while we're doing the mindset stuff. You're exactly right. But it doesn't mean it's any less valuable, right? Many people who could be looking for the mindset stuff could also be wanting to travel. I mean, I feel like most people have travel as one of their bucket list things in life. They just think they have to wait until they retire.
It's been a really good conversation. It's been great to learn more about what you are up to and the podcast. Just in the remaining few minutes, is there any wee things that you haven't maybe brought up yet or wanted to quickly go over before we get finished?
I don't think so. I think this has been really great. I think we're definitely going to dive more into the collaboration piece. I think it is time to do that, to start reaching out to others, because like you said, we kind of have the clout now. We kind of have enough underneath of us to not have to battle that imposter syndrome, right? And to feel like, we're worth hearing, that people will want to have us on their show. So I think that's
I
something
think
we'll
that's
definitely dig into. So I
I think the
appreciate.
collaboration thing is huge. I really like we're gonna have coasters made for sure. Because one of the things that Kara likes to do when we travel to all these different places, to go to the mom and pops in the different towns that we travel and try food and even the different beers that are that are
Local.
local beers. So I think that was a great idea too. And I think the collaboration, and we've been trying to do the collaboration with the authors in the book, and that's really gained us the most traction. So it only makes sense to go after people that are kind of traveling like we are, and
Or yeah, in the similar
in the
wheelhouse.
similar, yeah,
Yeah.
wheelhouse. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, no, you're welcome. Glad you got something from it. And yeah, I would say, like, use the Raphonic tool. Find 4 or 5 shows adjacent to you, and give them a listen. And if you like them, and you know that they bring people on, instead of just writing an email out to them, again, you've maybe heard us talk about this in the past, but send them a wee personalised video. When you stop somewhere nice, record a video and, show them where you are and just say you've been enjoying the show. And if there was an opportunity to come on, you could propose, I think you're, based on listening to your show, I think your audience would be really interested in this thing or that thing, and we'd love to come on and talk about it. And I think if you're sending over something like that, is not going to get ignored, because the person could see that you really mean it, you're sincere, you've done your research. Whereas, everyone who runs a podcast now, when they open their emails, there's always 10 or 15 just cold,
Yeah,
meaningless outreach. It's just from, agencies or spam or whatever. So, I create some really, really personalised outreach by video and get the flavour of what you do in there. And I think you'll get some good results with that, definitely.
I love that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful chatting with you. I really appreciate you having us on.
No, thank you very much for coming on. It's been lovely to find out more about what you're doing, and tell the listener where they can catch up with you and follow along.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find us. And then otherwise, Instagram, Facebook at KerouAx Cruising. So that's KerouAxCruising.
Hey, it's Colin here. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this content, please do check out the products we do as well, which supports everything we do. One of which is Alitu. The bonus to you being you get a great tool to create your podcast and make it much easier to get that show out into the world every single week. It's our podcast creator app, which includes call recording. It includes audio cleanup, from your leveling to your voice EQ to your noise reduction. It includes audio editing, including text-based editing, normal editing, editing, and AI filters to take out your ums and ahs and all of that kind of stuff. Plus, it has podcast hosting built right in. So it really is the all-in-one. We've built it for podcasters, and we are podcasters, so we really built it to make it as easy as possible to get your show out there into the world every single week at the top possible quality. So go over to alitu.com, that's alitu.com, and we've got a 7-day free trial, so you can try it for one episode, see if it fits you, and hopefully you'll stick around. All right, thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time.